We're back.
Hey, we're back. Act 2.
Act 2.
Andrea's going to take the questions this time. Randall's readers. Got a little heated in there this afternoon, so this ought to be fun.
Tends to happen when I'm involved.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm completely and totally innocent. Completely.
Okie dokie. Laura Wilson asks, I want to know when you two knew you were soulmates. Okay, for me, Maggie and I were in that larger sort of critique group or author sort of hangout place, and we had been posting regularly. Those of us who were actively working on books were posting more regularly than others, so her name was familiar. And one day in there, I vented about a bad day that my son had at preschool, and I was in tears, and it was nothing author related. And she PM'd me and said, I get it, if you ever need anyone to talk to. And I cried some more. And so then we started talking, and then we moved over to a little smaller critique group for those of us who were even more actively working on our first novel. Then we just kind of fell into it. But then we met in Chicago.
Oh, yes. That was crazy. That was wonderful. That was great.
I was sitting at the bar when I saw her walk in, and I swung around and whacked my knee, and I didn't care. I ran towards her like a crazy person.
It was awesome, and I fell totally and madly in love with Andrea Randall in that moment. I was like, oh my God.
I have that effect on people, so careful, y'all.
I don't think anybody's ever been that happy to see me in my whole life. She's a keeper.
I am.
Yep, she is.
Okay, so Charles.
Oh God, Charles.
He knows us pretty well, but he has a few questions here. How much do you read when you're writing, and does it end up having an influence on what you are working on?
Well, I try not to read too much when I'm writing. And sometimes I try to, because I write really happy books. Let me start with that.
She's like one of the horsemen of the apocalypse. The emotional apocalypse.
So I try and pick things that are lighter to read because I need to kind of get myself out of the writing funk after writing stuff like that. So
I agree.
Does it affect what I write? I hope not, because then I would think that people would think I was a complete and total sadist if I was trying to make a joke out of some of the topics that I choose to write about. Is she serious? So I don't know. Sometimes if I enjoy a writer's style or the way that they word things, I just kind of take that into consideration for myself. I'm like, you know what? They really were eloquent when they said it this way, or something like that, and try and just tuck those away in the coffers of my mind. So
I agree.
You can call upon them in those good moments.
When I wrote 10 Days, I was reading a ton of stuff, and that actually helped me form some things that I knew I didn't want to write about. I had a good idea of what I wanted Ember to be and who I didn't, based on some things I had been reading. And then some people who were my CPs at the time told me, don't read this book, not because it was a lot like my book, but because there were some similar themes, So I didn't really read any rock and roll romances while I was writing 10 Days, and I'm glad I didn't, because I think that I would have either gotten sort of self-conscious about my ability to tell my own story or something. But I do try to read because I think it just keeps me fresh and out of my head.
Yeah.
So what story is next? Regan's book. It did have a title, but that is no longer, because there's a book coming. I was so excited for this title. No book on Amazon had the title. Lo and behold, there's a book being released in May with the title, so back to the drawing board.
I'm working on something right now. It has a tentative title, just because it needs to be called something other than The Whip, because that sounds really kinky. Work in progress, people. Work in
Mine
progress.
out of the gutter.
Anyway, so it's tentatively called The Enigma Project, and geez, I don't even know how to begin to explain what it's about, except that
It's tough. It's not tough in the same ways that the final piece was tough. but it's emotionally draining.
Mm-hmm. I guess without trying to give too much away, the theme, like the moral of the story, I guess if you want to call it that, is life does not always work out the way that we intend it to. Sometimes we're our own best enemies as far as how we have labeled things and how we see things in our own minds. But just because it doesn't turn out the way that we want it to doesn't mean that it's not a beautiful story and that it doesn't have a happy ending. So I'll just leave it at that.
And Charles's last question is, what brand of vodka are we drinking?
Smirnoff.
Smirnoff.
Green apple.
Any port in a storm will do. Cheers.
Salud.
Okay. Now we get into some other questions.
Oh, Lord.
Do your husbands benefit from the amazing scenes you write and the relationships your MCs have? Here's how I'll answer that question. I will say that it's harder to read my own scenes sort of objectively. So, I mean, when I write the stuff, I know that it's a sexy scene or a sexy moment, but I don't read it and think, oh my God. However, when I read someone else's book, then I can get that feeling because I wasn't the one who wrote it and hadn't been thinking about it for 2 months. So other people's work, I think, influence my life in that way more than my own work does. I don't know. Wouldn't it be weird to be turned on by your own work?
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, when I'm writing a scene like that, I have to be connected to it emotionally. I at least have to think like, yes, that sounds like a good idea. And those things are based off of, I think, our fantasies, and that's fun, to put them on paper, to kind of put them out there, have them come to life. But
moving on.
We're going to leave the husbands kind of the husbands to the side because
So this is fiction, y'all.
It is fiction. It is fiction, y'all.
Lisa Rutledge asks, Maggie and Andrea, do you two ever have off days where you want to strangle one another while working on a said project? Because I always feel the love, and I love the love, but sometimes. I've never wanted to strangle Maggie.
I've never wanted to strangle Andrea either, so.
Short answer. Love her.
I love her.
Pamela asks, what position is best to write in? Okay. This is a legitimate question. Go.
Okay. What position do I find myself writing in most? Honestly, I'm either on the couch or in my armchair at home, sitting crisscross applesauce with my computer in my lap.
10 days was basically all written in a recliner or a bed because that's when I'd broken my leg.
Yeah.
And I was non-weight bearing for 12 whole weeks, so there's that. But I sometimes will write on the couch, but I'm far more productive if I'm at a table. So table or a desk.
I squirm too much when I'm at a table or a desk. So.
I am not asking that.
Y'all are dirty birdies and need to quit posting and trying to
Okay, Laura Wilson asks, if you could change one thing about yourself, appearance or otherwise, what would it be? So appearance or otherwise.
Appearance or otherwise. I would squirm less. I'm not disappointed in my looks. I just, I don't know. That doesn't mean I'm a vain cow. It just means that I'm happy with who I am.
If I had to pick something appearance-wise, I'd say my nose. I don't care for it at all. But
you have a lovely nose. Well, what are you talking about?
I'm just saying. Don't tell me I'm wrong with the thing that I want to change about myself.
I didn't say that you were wrong. I simply said that your nose was lovely.
If I had to pick something other than my appearance to change, I don't know.
Tobes.
Maybe I'd dial down the sarcasm a little. Just kidding.
Blasphemy.
Just kidding. All right. Let's see. Okay, we'll end with this one before we start the next one. If you were made to read 5 books for the rest of your life, what would they be?
Number 1, The Little Prince, because it's my favorite book of all time. Yeah, let's see.
One of mine, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna say the Bible, and this is why, because I haven't ever read the whole thing, and there's lots of juicy stuff in there, y'all. And I figure, right, I would put that in there as a solid number 1 because it would last me a while. It's kind of hard to get bored with the Bible.
West wind is blowing. Sorry. Sorry for those of you who have not read the Bible and have no idea what I'm talking about. So sorry.
Also, The Giver. Lois Lowry.
Okay. Sorry, your cat is trying to hump my leg.
The rest of the stuff is all stuff I've read recently. I feel like, I mean, you and I, not that I would want to say it'd be something for the rest of our lives, but you and I have both read the 50 Shades series several times.
Yes.
That's a good standby.
Say hi, Toby.
Probably The Opportunist. I'll go ahead and say it. I could read The Opportunist probably every day. I've only read it once, but I'm gonna read it again. But so that's 4 for me.
The Opportunist is seriously like reading The Opportunist was a biblical experience for me. It's what got me writing the final piece. So I could read that book all until the cows come home. But that and Dirty Red, I'm full down with the Love Me Live series.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
As far as the 5th one for me, maybe I'll just go ahead and say something that hasn't been written yet.
There you go. Let's see. Outside of,
you said The Little Prince.
I said The Little Prince. I'm going to say it because it was one of my favorite books, and I'm really not trying to kiss ass, so don't embarrass me. But In the Stillness was amazing. It was a really good book. It was just very relatable. Andrea's got a gift for writing characters, and the book is that good. And the only other one I can think of that I would read that often would be A Song for Julia, because Crank is my crack.
I didn't go there on purpose. I tried not to because we're friends.
Mommy.
I totally went there. Mommy.
Are we going to make a video?
So with that, we're going to end this scene, and then we'll record our next answers.
What, Mom?